What is the purpose of the media, and more specifically, what should its goal be for us as consumers? Is it to give us what we want, or to challenge us with what we need? Now, this can go across the various different types of media, whether it be social media, individuals who are advocating for a particular point of view, or particularly the broad pages and traditional print media, whether that's the traditional news outlets or whatever they may be. What is their purpose? Because you could argue that a lot of these platforms are designed purely around giving us what we want. Now, yes, they may report the facts, they will put some form of spin on it, because ultimately the viewership is their target audience to either infuse you, to engage you. That is their overall purpose, to provide you with what we want at the end of the day. It's not necessarily what is right, what is wrong, it's what you want to consume. And however you engage with that is positive engagement. Now, in terms of what we need, it's how do you present that in a way that is functionally useful for individuals who consume information. Now, in a lot of cases, a news story doesn't spend long enough in the regular circle. It might spend a day, a couple of days, even on big issue points, it might only last a week. But in a lot of cases, the public mindset starts to lose interest on that particular news item and therefore it gets shelved. And with particularly more investigative styles of journalism and information gathering, it's not necessarily possible to provide accurate and comprehensive information with such a limited time. Part of the problem is they're producing those facts for us more readily available and accessible very quickly, and it's very hard to provide that with a lot of depth in a very short time period, and as a result they are inevitably going to get it wrong. Now, as a result of that, should there be a view of therefore there should be redactions, but as we all know with different forms of content, a redaction will not get the same traction that the original article will, and it can be that original article can then be taken and taken again and so on. But part of the problem is how do we therefore engage with it? Should we encourage news outlets to run with an item for a longer period and do a deeper dive? Should they, for example, do an end of the week? Should they get to the end of the week and, for example, do some form of segment where they summarize what has happened? They go into detail, they provide more detailed analysis, a synthesis of that information. Would that be what we want? Equally, at the levels that we consume different media, is it more on us to dive deeper into the story? What is the requirements on the consumer of the information to be accountable to that point? To dive deeper into a story, to read more around it, to develop their own insights and their own perspective? Is there a requirement and justification for that type of engagement? And how would we go about that? Now, that's just some thoughts for this week's Moral Monday.